important to understand that it's hills and valleys. This is not a flat place. And so, let us begin. The first valley that I'm going to tell you about is a valley that we saw the first day we came. Remember when we got off the bus, we had a little l'chaim, and we were standing on the Mount of Olives overlooking a valley. If anybody remembers, it was named after a kid called Ron. Alright, it was a bit blowy, you probably didn't hear. It was called a kid called Ron, the Kidron Valley. Okay, now this valley is mentioned in the Bible. It's a very, very old valley. It runs all the way down to the lowest point in the world where we've been, the Dead Sea. Okay, and it's on the other side of town. We were standing right here, overlooking from the east. Okay, the other valley, by the way, this is the valley of Judgment Day. Okay, here an angel will stand in this valley, and this is where we'll go to be judged. So that's not far away. Might be today. See a big angel guy? That might be today. The other valley that's important to know is the valley that we're standing on top of now, and that is the valley that scares the life out of me, and that's the valley called Gei Ben Hinnom. Okay, which we said means hell. Okay, it doesn't actually mean hell, it means the valley of the sons of Hinnom, which is a very innocent kind of valley. But what was going on in this valley was something very nasty. Okay, down in the valley, somewhere down here, there was an altar with fire coming out of it to the fire god Molech. And we would take our firstborn children and throw them in the fire god Molech. Now, how do we know that people were doing that? Because it says in the Bible, don't take your children down there. Stop doing that. Don't go down to Molech. So if if nobody smoked, you wouldn't need a no smoking sign. But if people smoke, you need a no smoking sign. So the prophets wouldn't say don't go down there if people weren't going down there. And the prophets say, hey guys, stop, don't do that, bad, right? Even Abraham nearly sacrifices his son somewhere around here, and he has to explain himself when he doesn't sacrifice him, when these guys are saying, sacrifice, now, sacrifice, it'll be the end of your world. And he says, no, I don't sacrifice. You're crazy. He says, I'm monotheist. No. In the middle, I believe in one God. He, she, everyone. In the middle is another valley. It goes like that. Okay, the valley is called Haggai. My son is called Guy. Means valley. Okay? A very welcoming place. Valley. Okay, now this, if any of you know Hebrew letters, this looks like a Hebrew letter. These three valleys. Does anybody recognize it? Shin. Okay, right. So Shin is the first word of Shalom, for instance, and Shaddai, which is one of the names of God. Okay, now we must be careful when we mention the name of God, because the commandment says, thou must not take the Lord's name in vain, which means that we call Lord, Lord, and God, and Almighty, and the name, but we don't really use the name in a day-to-day way. Okay, a lot of Kabbalists use the name of God to be on a very high spiritual level. And people used to use the name of God as a very powerful tool. Like, if you wanted to help God attack your enemy, you would say the name of God. So we must be careful, but we can read it and we can write it. And so because the area of Jerusalem looks like God kind of signed here, yeah, that God kind of signed this place as a holy place. Okay, great. Now, if we were the first people who ever came to this holy place, which is now a holy place, where should we live? Should we live in the valley? Should we live on a hilltop? What do you reckon?
Hilltop.
Hilltop, okay. Hilltop is good. We get a good view. We can see if any of those nasty guys are coming to throw us out of our little home. But what do we need? What do we need? Essential thing that we need in order to survive?
Water.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we need to look for a spring. Okay, now today we're not going to do that because, well, we could do that because it's still here. But if we search all of this area around here, and I'm not talking about all of the area around that we see, but just this particular area here, we would note that on this hill over here, there is a lack of water. Now this hill over here is big. This is a big hill, which would be great to build our new home on because there's lots of space. This hill is a little tiny hill, but this little tiny hill has water, and so we don't have a choice. We're going to have to go down to the valley of the kid called Ron, and we're going to have to build our home next to the spring of Gihon, which means surging. In fact, it says in the Bible, they used to think that a dragon lived inside here, used to drink water, because it used to fill up with water and run and then stop and then run and then stop. It's called karst, like limestone has karst in caves, stalagmites and all those things, and the water can run through, but sometimes it fills up and then it flows. It's a geological process. Dragon, not dragon, whatever. And so we're going to build our city on the little hill. How are we going to protect ourselves, folks? What are we going to build to protect ourselves?
A wall.
Thank you. You've been here before.
Yes.
I know you've been here before. 1991, right? We're going to build. What about the spring? Is it going to be inside or outside?
Inside.
Ah, good, good. You guys are good. We're going to build a wall. here, if we build a wall, that's good. But how are we going to get in and out? Gates, all right, okay. So let's close that off. And let's put a gate over here. Okay, we'll build a tower. Okay, and we'll take Joseph, because he's a hardcore guy, and maybe Branton as a backup. And we'll put them up there.
He's our sniper.
And they're doing a good job up there. Fantastic. Okay, so we have a city. We have water, we have protection, the walls all around, we have a way of getting in and out. What are we going to call it?
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem. And why are we going to call it Jerusalem? Because the god Salem, Shalom, peace, lives in our city. He's our God. And the first time we ever hear about this city, Jerusalem, is way before Bible times. It's actually from the times of about 1800 years ago. Okay, 1800 years ago, there was a papyrus knocking around. Okay, it wasn't a papyrus on papyrus. It was actually a piece of clay that was found in the backyard. Some woman in a place called El Amarna in Egypt, she was cleaning up her backyard. She suddenly pulls out this piece of clay. It's got little notches on it. She doesn't quite know what it is. It's a letter. It's a letter from the king of Jerusalem to his king, the Pharaoh of Egypt, saying, complaining usually. People like to complain. Yeah, the neighboring city, they keep bothering me. I need backup. Send me money, send me soldiers, send me this. It was written in a script called Akkadian, which is like little notches and niches that it's kind of impossible to understand until one day we found a stela, we found a big rock with both, I think it was hieroglyphics and Akkadian on the same thing. So it was a translation. Fantastic. We could decode it. We understand it. It's called the El Amarna letters, and it talks about a city called Urushalim. Urushalim, which sounds just like Jerusalem. Okay? But that's not a Jewish name for this city, because when King David came to this city, he called it something else. In the Bible, he calls it something with a Z. They have one on them. You see that movie, The Matrix? Where did all the people live? In Zion. Right. And why did he call it Zion? Zion is a Hebrew word coming from the word Tzi'ah, which means dryness. Remember, on the edge of the wilderness? Okay, the city on the edge of the wilderness is called Zion, or the city of David. In other words, all these are names for Jerusalem. Now, I have shown you where Jerusalem is in the time of King David. King David came to this city. In fact, it tells us in the Bible that he actually... What is it, Sunday today? What's going on? Everybody Jewish? So what's going on?
At 11:15.
They're having fun?
No, they're great. It looks like they're not. Are they the
Is
same?
there a festival today that I missed?
I don't know.
It's not Easter, is it?
It's not Easter.
They heard you were going to be talking. Talking will drown them out.
Well, when the Christians are finished, the Muslims will start going, Allah Akbar, and then we'll... Okay, so this is Jerusalem of old, and this is where King David came, and it tells us in the Bible that he came through a secret passage to enter the city through something called a tzinor, which when we have a hose pipe in our garden, we call that a tzinor, in other words, a pipe. And he came basically through the spring, and he entered the city, and he created the city of David here, okay? The only thing is, I'm asking you now, when you look at the walls of this city and we say this is the old city, is this old or is this old?
That's old.
This is old, which makes this
New.
Oh, but this is the old city.
It's the new old.
Oh, okay. So we have to quantify, okay? How old is King David? We're talking about 3,000 years ago. Okay, 3,000 years ago, which is minus 1,000. Okay, when we look at these walls were built in 1538. Okay? In other words, they're only 500 years old. When I say 500, for American people, that's a long time. In Israel, that's not a long time.
But
Okay?
did King David get a title to the city?
Did he get a title? He conquered it.
So does that mean he got a title to it?
What does that mean? Did somebody give him a piece of paper that says you're the boss now?
Yeah, and he owns the land?
No.
He owns the
What do you mean?
land.
Well, he conquered it.
He conquered it, so he
So it's
owns
his.
it. He owns it.
He did.
So where was
67.
Saul?
He going bouncing from 3,000 years ago to now is a long time.
So where
Okay.
was Saul's
So,
kingdom?
okay, so Saul's kingdom was in the Shomron. Okay, it was not here. The capital was in a different place. It was in Shiloh, which is further north from here. That's where the ark stood. What did David do when he created this? The importance of this city, guys. The Israelites came out of Egypt 12 tribes, not one nation yet. One nation of 12 tribes. Could they agree? No. Did they have one leader? Yeah, Moses, but they all had their own tribes. And when they settled in the land, they were 12 different tribes. Now, after a while, they decided it was time for them to be a people with a king, like the other peoples around. And so, because God was king, so it was hard to, how do we have a king? Anyway, God said, it's okay, you can have your own king. Yeah? And it was Saul. Except Saul was new at the job. He didn't have much experience. He didn't have anybody to give him, he had a few prophets, Samuel, to give him a bit of direction, but really it was David who took the 12 tribes and made them into one nation.